performance of the financial year 2022-2023 from the perspective of the Ministry of Justice and Constitutional Affairs, but rather also paying a lot of focus onto the justice, law and order sector. This particular sector did have its inception in 1999. Now, since then, they've actually been able to establish different strategies that would allow you, a Ugandan, to access justice, regardless of any differences that may align from the social aspects of life. Now, conversations are normally with a group of people, I should say. This morning, I have two gentlemen in studio, as we are definitely going to be having our conversations getting deeper and deeper. First, at my immediate left, who do I have? The Permanent Secretary to the Ministry of Justice and Constitutional Affairs. That is none other than Robert Kasande. A very good morning, sir, and many thanks for joining us. Good morning to you, our viewers. As told, my name is Robert Kasande. I'm the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Justice and Constitutional Affairs, a ministry that is responsible for promoting effective and efficient delivery of service, good governance, to its allied institutions and the general public and the government of Uganda. All right. Many thanks for joining us. The pleasure is ours to host you this morning as we inspire Uganda. Now, on my extreme left, though, I do have Canon Sam Rogers Wairagara, who serves as the Deputy Senior Technical Advisor at the Justice, Law and Order Sector. That is abbreviated as JLOS. Very good morning, sir, and many thanks for joining us.
Thank you, my brother, and good morning, viewers. And as introduced, I am the Deputy Head of the Secretariat that is responsible for coordinating the agencies that are involved in the administration of justice and promoting the observance of human rights and the fight against corruption in this country. Okay. And we are glad to be here. Thank you. All right, I will start with the Permanent Secretary here as we're getting into our conversations this morning, sir. By the look of things, as the Access to Justice sub-program lead agency, what role does the Ministry of Justice and Constitutional Affairs play in this sector? Our ministry coordinates all institutions that are within the Access to Justice subsector. Okay. And in doing that, we ensure that we have a coordination of all the institutions. We ensure that there is rule of law in the country. We ensure that the Constitution is serving the public. We give advice to all institutions of government in terms of legal representation, legal opinions. We are also in charge and responsible to ensure that even the other institutions that administer justice, like the judiciary, are well represented in cabinet. The Minister of Justice and Constitutional Affairs chairs the coordination committee, the coordination committee of the Access to Justice sub-program. Okay. Yeah. And Canon, over the years, when you look at what the Justice, Law and Order sector has been doing, it has been able to bring the services closer to the people. And if you're to break down for us the performance of this key issue of the move by the sector to ensure that Ugandans get to understand the space, how have you performed specifically in that particular issue? Just like all other sectors, our focus as a country is on making sure that the services are brought closer to the people. True. And especially in addressing the justice needs of the people, the citizens in this country. As you are aware, when people live together, they develop conflict, there are disagreements, and there are also other processes that they would require be closer to them. And our focus has been to reduce the distance that people traverse in search of these services. I want to tell our viewers, and they will all agree with me, that within a 15-kilometer radius now you can find the services of the frontline justice, law and order sector institutions, the services of the police, the courts, the services of the prosecutor, and where in most cases you'll always find legal aid services provided with support from non-state actors, of course with the coordination of the center. And we have not only been able to address this through functional presence, okay, but also through infrastructure, where we have been able to cover, as we speak now, 76% of the 117 districts that we prioritized in our strategic plan. Of course, you know that the number of districts have since increased. They are more than 117. But we focus on the promise we made, the commitment we made in our strategic plan. And that's why we're talking about the 76% of the districts that we have been covered with a one-stop justice land order frontline service point, frontline services. In this, you don't have to travel 10 kilometers to a police, then 10 kilometers to a prosecutor's office, and 5 kilometers to a court. You'll always find all these ones within close proximity to one another, and also built for the purpose. As you are aware, in many of the other, in some of the places where we have not yet constructed, we are renting a shop, maybe what used to be a bar or something like that. That's what we are progressively trying to reduce, so that we can have purpose-built infrastructure for delivery of justice services.
Okay, PS, on the same matter, let me just get back to you a little quick. How has the ministry also been as supportive as it gets? Because when you look at the situation is to ensure that the law serves Ugandans effectively. And right, in this regard, you want to ensure justice is actually served to every Ugandan in every corner of the country. How supportive have you been as well as a ministry to the sector to ensure that they reach out to the Ugandans? Still speaking of this financial year.
One of the things that we've done is try to improve and increase our footprint in the country.
Okay.
We ensure that the services, as my colleague has said, are brought closer to the people. For instance, the Ministry of Justice has now 7 regional offices. Those are not enough, but we're increasing the footprint.
Okay.
In those regional offices, we ensure that representation in court. And by the way, the judiciary is opening courts everywhere. And for us to be able to ensure that our people get those services, for instance, the judicial services, the DPP, Office of the DPP, Law Development Center, they need services closer to the people, and therefore the ministry has availed office space in these regional offices, okay, even to URSB, to be able to bring these services closer to the people.
Okay. Yeah. And bringing me to the other question, still to you, the PS here. Why is it so important and critical for the justice, labor and order sector, rather for the justice, law and order sector, to focus on issues of access to justice, looking at administration of justice, as well as the rule of law?
It's very critical. If when a country to develop, to have social and economic development, you need a rule of law, access to justice that people have trust in. For instance, if you are promoting, if you are Uganda Investment Authority and you are out there promoting investors to come to this country, the first thing they need to check, what is it that if I am involved in a dispute, a business dispute, yes, how is the legal system? So in terms of assisting this country to develop, and this is anchored in our Vision 2040 and the NDP 3, that the legal system must support the framework for socio-economic development. And we ensure that for instance, the Attorney General's Chambers is the largest law firm in the land, and it represents all government institutions. So our ministry ensures and they all access to justice, that the rule of law is adhered to, that the people who give this service are credible. We're still suffering a little bit about the numbers and the logistics that are required to take our people to those to be able to defend government. But we are increasingly and steadily increasing the access to these services.
Kainon, let's now talk about Ugandans, let's say in poor communities or vulnerable communities, and their access to justice and you know, the element of citizens' rights being upheld as well. If you have to look at that, what key interventions have been undertaken by the sector to ensure that this prevails?
Thank you, my brother. We noticed that in this country, we have had this thought process. Loosely translated in Uganda, mwaputa singa musango.
Yeah, it has been so
and it's because in most cases the poor do not afford the services of a lawyer, and to be able to balance the various arms, especially when it comes to access to justice, is to try to ensure that even the poor have legal representation. And this we are doing by promoting access to legal aid services. We do have a project funded partially by government and also by our development partners, where we have opened up what we are referring to as legal aid centers in various parts of the country, with support from the center to, as much as possible, experiment and pilot state-funded legal aid services to enable the poor, the vulnerable people access these services at no cost. It has particularly been helpful to women and children. But besides that, we're also working with non-state actors. We have also supported the Uganda Law Society to be able to open up legal aid clinics. And we are also, as part of the training program, supporting the Law Development Center. Wherever we have a center, you know, currently we have decentralized legal training. We have centers in Mbarara, we have another one in Lira, and so in all these places where we have these centers, we are providing legal aid services to indigent persons. But suffice also to add that one of the greatest demands of people, especially in the justice system, is the right to information. And going out so that they are able to appreciate the processes, the systems, and how they can navigate through these systems and processes. We are trying as much as possible to simplify the laws, to translate them into languages that people can appreciate. And we are also addressing the disabled, including the blind. Yes. You can now get the Constitution in Braille, so that the blind can also be able to appreciate the provisions with the Constitution. But in a way, we are also addressing weak points, especially with regard to human rights violations by security agencies, and making them conscious of this vice and how to contain it, and also making sure that the laws are fully implemented, and those that are found to be culpable are brought to book.
All right, PS here again, looking at the vulnerable communities, why am I bringing you into this? I want to believe as well we've had issues in these communities that they directly report to the ministry. What would be some of those this financial year that have been identified as the key issues that you might be looking forward to addressing, or that you've already addressed even into this year, just before we get into the achievements?
Of course, one of the key issues that every time you are in a meeting, you come to face is the issue of case backlog.
Okay.
People are spending a lot of time on remand, and so what we've done is we are introducing digitization of our systems, so that we are able to reach out even when the judges are not face to face with the convicts or the suspects. That has helped in reduction of case backlog. We have, like I said earlier, we have also increased the footprint of the court systems in the country. We are still a little bit grappling with the congestion in prisons, and we get a lot of complaints in the ministry. We are promoting alternative dispute resolution for instance, so that we don't get everybody into the courts of law. We are promoting community service, so that again, less people get into the prisons and therefore alleviate the challenge of congestion in prisons.
Okay.
Those are very key that we keep facing, and we're addressing them in a systematic way.
Okay. Now, for the viewers, a quick one here. When you look at some of the key findings here for the presentation of the annual performance report of 2022-2023, you get to look at the outcome number 1, people-centered service delivery system strengthened. According to this particular finding, it shows public trust in the justice system is 69%, according to the data from SEMA pilots at 50 frontline justice, law and order sector service points. Now, the crime rate, though, increased from 52% in 2020. This was a report from the previous financial year, 2020 to, that is, to 63%, resulting in a 10% reduction in the proportion of backlog. Now, again, besides that, we try to understand how have we performed this particular year in regards to the achievements, getting me back to the permanent secretary to understand much more as the lead of the sector, that is justice, law and order sector. What do you think, or what could you highlight as the achievements so far?
We have indeed increased the public trust in our systems. Okay. And this is because of our presence now. We are a lot more present in the country, through the courts, through our regional offices. That public trust is very critical. Like I said earlier, if you are to invest in a country, whether you are a national or an international investor, you need a justice system that is fair to all. And that public trust, we are continuously working towards improving it. At 69%, down from the 50s, is work in progress, but we think it's a very good achievement, especially for the last financial year.
Okay.
There's been a slight increase in the case backlog that we grapple with. There's been increase in transparency of the legal system. Okay. There's been a lot of complaint in the past about the integrity of our justice system, especially the courts. Working together with the administration of justice, which is under the judiciary, we have also been able to improve on that front. And of course, the e-justice system, digitization has helped. That's increasing, albeit in few districts now. Okay. Like in Gulu, we have an e-justice system where you can be in Kampala and hear a court case that is taking place in Gulu. Needless to say, we've steadily increased our infrastructure.
Yes. And
particularly the house that we're building at Naguru, not yet complete, currently at about 70%, 60% completion
as the head
for the first phase.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Because I wanted to ask Canon about the same issue to do with the infrastructure issues in regards to the communities out of reach of the city. How do you handle the same? I did hear you say at times you do rent some of the buildings in some of the areas. How have you been able to maximize on such situations?
Actually, we started with affirmative action.
Okay.
Starting with the hard-reach areas.
Okay.
If you go to a place like Bundibujo, you get a state-of-the-art justice center where we provide services. In one compound, you'll get police, you'll get DPP, you'll get court. If you went to Kriandongo, the same. You go to Serere, the same. You go to places like Moroto. Moroto has the first mini-jealous house. Okay. So by and large, we have been trying to address the issue of infrastructure, even the countryside. That's where we started from. Okay. If you notice in places like Amuru, the very first infrastructure in Amuru district was a justice center. Okay. The same places like Ramo and others. But we have been having a challenge with headquarters.
Okay.
If you notice, many of the institutions of the sector are renting, the Ministry of Justice, the DPP, Tax Appeals Tribunal, the Judicial Service Commission. You see, even for the courts, you notice that
they do not have a permanent
the Court of Appeal, the Supreme Court, they are all nomades moving from one building to another, and those are the challenges.
Okay.
Lost files, delays in the dispensation of work because you having this challenge. But for the Jailhouse House, it is meant to address. You notice that if you went to prison headquarters,
yes,
we are into some squeezed and not built for purpose to address the issues of administration of prisons and all these other things. So this Jailhouse House is meant to address the rent challenge for headquarters, but two, to ensure that these institutions are working from within one coordinated infrastructure.
You know what, when we do return after the break, I want us to look at how you're going to address the other issues as well in relation to how Ugandans can access justice. But the two gentlemen have actually been able to at least give you a breakdown, a brief as well, but not as brief as you may actually think it is. There's a lot of technicalities in how much they do or perform every other year. So at times you may be having issues in relation to access to justice, but from the point of discussion that we're having this morning, you'll get to realize that at times there are lots of things that do happen. As much as you could definitely say there's a lot of not only paperwork, but there's a lot of behind the scenes situations that you need to understand before you ideally access this justice. Because as the ministry, all it has to put in place is to make sure that you as a Ugandan do access this particular justice. Now, when you look at the sector though, as well, they ensure that you get the justice you deserve, and the element of the rights of Ugandans being very, very crucial for the same. Now, when we do return, we speak bigger in regards to the justice sector in Uganda as much. My two guests are still in studio with me, so should you as well, you the viewer, wherever you're catching us from this morning. Stick around. Good Morning Uganda Extra does continue immediately after the break.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
Over 1,000 children with disabilities in Uganda every 5 years have not had access to adequate education. And this has been basically due to lack of assistive devices to enable them get reasonable accommodation in schools. Mokisa Humanity and Inclusion Foundation is leading a campaign to fundraise for assistive devices for 500 children with disabilities to get in school in the year 2024. Join us to fundraise for braille machines, slates and styluses, white cane, braille paper, hearing aids, wheelchairs, audiobooks, book recorders, JAWS software, among others, on 10th December at Hotel Africana. Register your child with a disability by calling us on 0740 55 04 95 or 0783 91 11 14. Donations from well-wishers are also welcome. Entrance is 100,000, 150,000, 200,000 and a table goes for 1 million shillings. This is sponsored by UBC, Mokisa Inclusive Schools, Mokisa Nasaran Primary School, Herona Hospital, Msafiri Tours and Molia Foundation.
Junko. Yo. Check the shopping, man. What's your secret?
Haven't you heard of the Parish Development Model PDM?
Yes, I did, but I thought it was just a talk.
No, it is real. I and a few friends together formed a circle, accessed money from the PDM, invested in a portrait project, and now things are moving.
Junko, I thought I was one of your friends.
You are,
but you left me behind.
I didn't leave you in poverty. What you do, just visit your LC2 chairperson and your parish chief, and start the process of economic transformation. Just like that. The parish development model is an initiative from the government of Uganda through the Ministry of Local Government, designed to transform all lives of Ugandans for the better. PDM, my parish, my development, my life.
UBC is the national public broadcaster. We educate, inform, entertain, and inspire our audiences. You can watch us on free-to-air channel 001, DSTV channel 282, GoTV channel 371, StarTime